The sky had been gray since morning, like it knew what kind of day it would be. Plastic chairs sagged in the wet dirt. Someone had tied a torn blue tarp between the rusted gates, trying to shield the mourners from the drizzle. But rain still dripped through the holes, in slow, irregular beats, like a rhythm too tired to finish itself. They buried Miss Hattie that morning. She wasn't famous, wasn't rich, just another name on the mailbox at the end of a forgotten street. But in a neighborhood like this, where people came and went without leaving photos behind, even the quiet ones were missed when they disappeared. She used to hand out peppermints to kids who dared to come close, left bread crusts for strays, sat on her porch humming church hymns no one remembered the words to. Lily Harper stood near the back, in an oversized black raincoat that didn't belong to her. The sleeves swallowed her hands. The hood drooped low over her eyes. 13 years old, and no one really noticed her. Not until Mr. Alvarez, the neighborhood coordinator, cleared his throat awkwardly and said, "Miss Hattie once told me, Lily's got a voice," said she heard her singing to the birds one morning. "So, if it's all right, maybe she could sing something for her." The murmurs started immediately. That Harper girl? Didn't know she talked, let alone sang. She always keeps her head down, doesn't even answer teachers. Lily didn't flinch. She didn't look up. Instead, she walked slowly past the rows of folding chairs. Her steps made no sound on the wet ground. She passed the cheap wooden casket with the wilted flower wreath. She passed the crying aunties, the neighbor kids wiping noses on sleeves. The one baby still babbling as if it didn't understand the air had grown heavier. In her hand, she held a small, wrinkled notebook, pages soft from use, the spine held together with string. Her thumb brushed the edge as she stepped in front of the microphone stand someone had propped up with bricks. It was an old karaoke mic, taped at the neck, with wires snaking into a chipped speaker balanced on a milk crate. Someone tapped the side to stop the feedback. It hissed, then quieted. And for the first time in years, the people of Sycamore Alley fell silent. Not because of grief, not because of fear, but because a girl they had ignored for most of her life was about to speak through a song. Only, she didn't start singing just yet. Her eyes scanned the crowd, and then they paused. At the very back, beneath a sagging umbrella, stood a man Lily hadn't seen since she was 4. He was thinner now, grayer, but still watching her the same way he used to when she hummed herself to sleep on the couch. His lips parted, but no words came. Lily looked down. She took a deep breath, and then she opened her notebook. There were 3 locks on the front door, not for safety, just a habit. Lily and her grandmother had lived in that little house at the far end of Sycamore Alley for as long as anyone could remember. It slouched like an old man. Tin roof rusted through in places, porch light buzzing like a tired fly. One of the windows had a crack shaped like a lightning bolt. They never fixed it. Lily said it looked like the house had once survived something. She could relate. Inside, the wallpaper peeled in slow curls, revealing the bones of a home too old to complain. The living room had 2 chairs, one soft, one folding, and the radio sat between them like a third grandparent. Lily's room wasn't really a room, just a mattress, a curtain, and a shelf where the books leaned sideways from weight and time. Most of the covers were gone. Some pages too, but she read them anyway. She liked the broken things. They felt more honest. At school, Lily barely spoke. She answered with nods, avoided eye contact, ate lunch behind the gym when she could. The other girls didn't understand her. And what people don't understand, they usually mock. You mute or something? She's like a shadow. You blink and forget she's there. Maybe she thinks she's better than us. But Lily never thought she was better, just quieter. The world was already loud. Loud with arguments, sirens, slammed doors, and the scraping of too many people surviving too close together. So at night, Lily created a space where nothing yelled. She'd wait until her grandmother dozed off with a blanket over her legs and the TV whispering reruns. Then she'd tiptoe to the radio, an old thing with one working knob and a flickering orange light. And she'd listen. Really listen. Gospel. Soul. dusty doo-wop stations. Foreign ballads where she didn't know the words but knew exactly what they meant. Sometimes she sang along, just under her breath. A sound too soft to disturb the air, like a secret not yet ready for the world. She wrote lyrics on napkins, corners of mail, the margins of school worksheets, folded them into a battered notebook bound with string. Once, her grandmother caught her, said nothing, just smiled, and the next morning, Lily found a tiny plastic toy microphone sitting on her pillow. No note, no comment, just this, a quiet way of saying, "I hear you." The news came like it always did in Sycamore Alley. Whispered, softened, passed through screen doors and over fences. Miss Hattie's gone. No ambulance sirens. No headlines. Just gone. They said it was her heart. Collapsed on her porch, arms still wrapped in that old shawl she wore even in summer. The mailman found her. Letters still bundled in his hand, unsure whether to ring the bell or say a prayer. She was the oldest soul in the alley. Not by age, by presence. She remembered every name, every birthday, every mother who'd left, every child who stayed. She never asked for much. Just a folding chair, her Sunday hymns, and time to sit with the neighborhood cats who never feared her. And now she was gone. Just like that. Mr. Alvarez, the neighborhood coordinator, took it personally. He was the kind of man who still wore a tie to community meetings, even if no one noticed. When he stood outside her porch the next morning, hat in hand, he said to no one in particular, "We need to give her something real, not just flowers and folding chairs. A voice." Someone mentioned Lily, not with confidence, not with certainty, just a passing thought. Hattie once said she heard that Harper girl sing behind the hedge. Said she sounded like a bird that didn't know it had wings. The room had gone quiet. Then, another voice. Is she even gonna say yes? No one knew, because Lily never spoke unless she had to. And when she did, it was soft, so soft people weren't sure if she'd really spoken at all. That afternoon, Mr. Alvarez walked up to the Harper house, removed his hat, asked gently, "Would you consider singing something at the service?" Lily didn't answer right away. Her grandmother looked at her. Lily looked down, then slowly nodded. That night, she pulled out the notebook. Pages worn, edges curling like fallen leaves. She turned to a song circled 3 times in pencil. An old hymn, one she'd only ever whispered in the dark. She whispered it again, then again. Then, with no one around but the flickering porch light and the cat watching from the sill, she sang, out loud, just once. And when the note faded into silence, Lily stood very still, because for the first time in her life, the silence that followed didn't feel empty, felt ready. The service was simple. It had to be. A few plastic chairs, a sagging blue tarp, and a speaker that crackled more than it worked. Someone had borrowed it from the youth center. Someone else brought instant coffee in paper cups. Miss Hattie's casket sat low between 2 potted plants, wilted marigolds, already leaning. A photo of her, grainy, sun-bleached, propped beside a candle too short to stand on its own. And behind it all, Lily. She stood still, hands tight around her notebook, thumb brushing the worn corner where the pages had begun to fray. The mic in front of her tilted slightly to the left. Someone had wrapped it in duct tape. It whined when touched. Mr. Alvarez tapped it twice, hiss pop, then stepped aside. A few people whispered, "Is she really gonna sing?" Thought she didn't talk. Maybe someone should stand close, just in case she freezes. Lily didn't move. She blinked once, took a shallow breath, then opened the notebook. There were no backing tracks, no piano, no choir, only her voice, raw, unguarded. And when she sang the first note, it didn't rise. It hovered, a sound so soft it felt like breath held in cupped hands. The words came slow. "Precious Lord, take my hand." It wasn't loud, wasn't polished, but it was true. The kind of true that presses into your chest and lingers long after it's gone. Heads turned, feet stopped shifting. Children grew still in their parents' arms. The wind paused just long enough to let her finish the line without interruption. At the back of the crowd, the man with the umbrella, the one no one had invited, the one who hadn't been seen in over a decade, took a step forward. His mouth parted, then closed again, because there, beneath the sagging tarp and the sagging sky, his daughter was singing, and he wasn't sure if she knew he was there, or if she would care if she did. But he stayed, because nothing else moved, and no one else dared make a sound. After the song ended, no one clapped, no one moved. It wasn't the kind of silence that follows performance. It was something else, something slower, thicker, like the sound had left behind a shadow, and everyone was standing inside it. Then, almost shyly, the old woman in the second row whispered, "That's the same hymn Hattie used to hum on her porch," and someone else nodded. Another wiped their eyes. A few came forward after the service. Awkward, but kind. "That was beautiful, sweetheart. Didn't know you had that in you. You've got something real there, girl. Don't lose it." Lily didn't answer. She just bowed her head, held her notebook tighter, and walked home through puddles that mirrored the gray sky. That evening, the Harper house was quiet. Her grandmother didn't ask how it went. Didn't need to. Instead, she placed a plate of warm cornbread and a mug of tea on the table, then whispered, more to the room than to Lily. Miss Hattie would have smiled, hearing that. Later that night, Lily sat on her cot, fingers resting lightly on the edge of the notebook. She should have felt something big, pride, relief, even joy, but all she felt was tired, and a little afraid, because the silence hadn't stopped. At school the next morning, a few people stared. A few smiled, too wide, too mocking. In the hallway, someone had printed a blurry photo of her at the funeral. Eyes closed, mouth open mid-song, and taped it to a locker with the words scribbled across it. "The ghost sings." She pulled it down, but it was too late. By lunch, they were laughing again, whispering, looking. Someone made a funeral sound when she walked by. Someone else mimicked her voice. High, breathy, cruel. Lily sat behind the gym, knees pulled to her chest, notebook in her lap. But she didn't open it. She just listened to the wind scraping leaves across the asphalt. And for the first time in weeks, she didn't hum along. That night, she tucked the notebook beneath her mattress. Not to protect it, but to bury it, just enough to forget it was there. Because it hurt more to be heard, if what they heard was just another reason to laugh. She thought it would be different. She thought that maybe, just maybe, after the funeral, after the silence, after the way the air had held her voice like something sacred, she wouldn't have to hide again. So when the invitation came, handwritten, folded in soft creases, from the choir group at New Bethel Church, Lily didn't say no. Her grandmother had smiled. Not a big smile, just enough. "You don't have to prove anything," she'd said. "Just go. Sing because you want to." So Lily went. She wore her cleanest skirt, socks that matched, and the same raincoat from the funeral, washed and still damp at the sleeves. The church was big. Too big. Echoey. White walls that made every sound feel exposed. Even footsteps. When she walked in, a few heads turned. Some smiled. Some didn't. There was a girl in the front. Tall, polished, perfect posture, who looked her up and down and then leaned into her friend, whispering behind one hand. Lily found a seat near the back. She didn't open her notebook. She just held it like a shield. The rehearsal began. Harmonies rose, full and warm. The director, a man with wire glasses and a soft baritone, walked the group through scales, warm-ups, blend. Then came solo parts, volunteers, short phrases, just a few bars each. Lily didn't raise her hand, but the director looked her way anyway. "You in the back? You're Lily, right? Try this line." Her throat tightened. She nodded once, barely. The pianist queued up. The first two notes echoed in the rafters. Lily took a breath, and her voice cracked. It wasn't a small crack. It was the kind that stops time. A dry, fractured note that tumbled from her throat like broken glass. Silence. Then the tall girl coughed dramatically. A boy behind her stifled a laugh. Someone whispered, "Guess the ghost really does have holes." The director tried to smile. It's okay, first try nerves. Want to give it another go? But Lily had already stood up, already backed toward the door. She didn't run, didn't cry, just left. That night, the air in her room felt too loud. She pulled the notebook from under her mattress, sat with it in her lap for a long time, then flipped it open and began tearing. Not all at once, but carefully, page by page. Lyrics she'd copied in tiny print. Melodies she'd written in symbols only she understood. Gone. She lit a candle, dropped each page into the flame, watched the handwriting curl into ash. Somewhere outside, wind tapped the window. Inside, her grandmother entered, quietly, slowly, and didn't speak. She just placed a blanket over Lily's shoulders, then left the room. And Lily sat alone, in the orange flicker, as her voice turned to smoke. The knock was soft, not polite, not urgent, just hesitant, like someone unsure if they were allowed to be there. Lily didn't move. She sat curled on the edge of her cot, knees drawn in, fingers stained faintly with ash. Her grandmother looked through the peephole, then opened the door, just a crack, and then paused. Longer than usual. A silence stretched between them, and then came a low voice. Rough, careful. Is Lily home? Lily turned her head. She knew that voice. Not the tone, time had stolen that, but the way it landed. Soft like rain on wood. Her feet touched the floor before she told them to. She stepped into the hallway, and there he was. Older, thinner, hair grayer than she remembered. But it was him. The man who used to hum lullabies in the kitchen. The man who vanished one night, years ago, with a duffel bag and a promise to be back before the moon changed. He never was. Lily didn't speak, didn't run, didn't cry. She just stared. He held something in his hand, a piece of paper folded twice. His fingers trembled. I saw you, he said, eyes lowered. At the funeral. I didn't know it was you at first. But then you started to sing. He looked up. And I knew. Lily looked past him, toward the rain gutter dripping in steady rhythm. Her face was unreadable. I didn't come to make things right, he said. I just wanted to say. That was the most honest thing I've ever heard. He extended the folded paper. I used to write songs, he added. This was the first one I wrote after you were born. Never had the guts to sing it to anyone. Lily didn't take it. Not yet. She just looked at it, like it was something alive and fragile. I'll leave it here, he whispered, placing it gently on the porch rail. Then he turned, walked down the steps, didn't look back. Lily stood there for a long time. When the paper started to get damp from the mist, she picked it up, unfolded it. Inside just 8 lines, scribbled uneven but raw. Something about her hands. Her laugh, promised to stay. She read it twice, then slipped it into the front of her new notebook, the one without any burned edges. The flyer was taped to the front of the corner store, fluttering in the breeze beneath a layer of plastic wrap and hope. Spring Community Gathering Saturday, 4 p.m., backyard of New Bethel Church. Music, food, remembrance. Lily stared at it longer than she meant to. Her grandmother noticed. You don't have to go, she said gently, folding linens at the kitchen table. But if you do, don't go for them. Go for yourself. Lily didn't answer, but she did slip the folded lyrics, the ones her father had left, into the front of her coat pocket. On Saturday, the air smelled of charcoal and honeysuckle. The churchyard was strung with crooked paper lanterns and the laughter of children running between folding chairs. A speaker played a crackling playlist of old soul records. Someone handed out lemonade in mismatched cups. And someone else, Mr. Alvarez again, stood on the low makeshift stage with a mic and said, We lost a few folks this year. Good folks. Strong folks. And while we remember them, maybe we let someone among us remind us why we're still here. He looked at Lily. No pressure. No grand introduction. Just a small nod. She stepped forward slowly. No raincoat this time. Just a soft blue dress and bare feet against the grass. She didn't bring her notebook. Didn't need to. In her hand, one folded page. She unfolded it as she reached the mic, smoothed the creases with her thumb, then looked up. And this time she didn't look away. Her voice was low at first, shaky, not perfect, but it held. She sang the song her father wrote, about the day she was born, about how he wished he'd been brave enough to stay, about the little laugh she had when she was only 2, about her hands, how they always held things like they didn't want to break them. No one laughed. No one whispered. A child climbed into their mother's lap, eyes wide. Mr. Alvarez placed his hat over his heart. Even the church bells, scheduled to chime on the hour, paused for her final note. When she finished, she stepped away from the mic before the clapping began. Because this time, she wasn't waiting for their approval. She had already heard it in her own voice. The video wasn't meant to be anything. Someone in the crowd at the church gathering had filmed it on an old phone, hands shaky, wind brushing against the mic. It barely had 10 views that first week. But by the second week, it had 100, then 1,000. It wasn't viral. Not the kind of clip with edits or effects. Just a girl in a blue dress, standing barefoot in the grass, singing like she didn't know anyone was listening, and wouldn't have changed a thing if they weren't. Someone shared it to a neighborhood group. Then someone's cousin sent it to a local music teacher. Then a nonprofit tagged it with, "The voice you didn't know you needed today." And just like that, people started asking for her. The church choir director sent a letter. "We'd love to have you. No solos, just harmony. No pressure." The school counselor brought her a flyer for a regional youth showcase. A woman from a downtown cafe, the kind with open mic nights and real string lights, handed her grandmother a business card and said, "She's the kind of voice that quiets a room. We could use that." But Lily didn't say yes to any of them. Not out of fear. Not anymore. Just because she knew now that music didn't need a stage to matter. So instead, she said yes to other things. She sang on porches. 2 songs for the old man next door who couldn't sleep unless he heard a lullaby like the one his wife used to hum. She sang in the hallway of the nursing home down the street, soft gospel during visiting hour, while some of the residents tapped their fingers in time. She sang at the laundromat once because a baby was crying and her grandmother whispered, "Maybe try that song about the moon again." And she sang when no one was there. In the kitchen, in the yard, beneath the broken street lamp. Not because someone asked, but because she finally wanted to. People still offered opportunities, still handed her papers, flyers, platforms. But Lily always read them quietly, then tucked them into her new notebook, the one with clean pages. And sometimes she said yes, but more often she smiled, soft and kind, and said, "Maybe next time," because not all songs were meant for microphones. Some were meant for moments. And Lily had learned the difference. The house was quiet again. Not the sad kind. Not like before, when silence meant something had broken and no one dared speak of it. No, this quiet was gentler now. It had space. It breathed. The old radio still sat between the 2 chairs, one soft, one folding. Sometimes it worked. Sometimes it didn't. That night it buzzed faintly, static at first, then a voice. Lily's voice. A neighbor had recorded it, the song from the festival. Somehow, the file found its way back to the block. And now it played, crackly and soft, through the static-laced speaker. Lily sat cross-legged on the floor, arms wrapped around her knees, listening. Not for mistakes. Not for applause. Just listening. Her grandmother dozed in the armchair nearby, a half-knitted scarf slipping from her lap. Outside the window, the streetlight flickered. Still broken, still stubborn. But Lily didn't mind it anymore. She turned her head toward the sound of her own voice. The song was slower than she remembered. Quieter, like someone walking barefoot through a memory. She reached across the floor and pulled her notebook into her lap. The new one. The one with no burn marks, no tears, no water stains. Just page after clean page. She flipped to the first. Wrote 6 words. "Some songs don't need to end," then closed it, and whispered. Not loud, Not even enough to wake the cat curled beside the heater. Another line from her father's song. Just one. Not because anyone was listening. Not even because someone needed to hear. But because she was still here. Still breathing. Still singing. And somehow that was enough. The air was still. The moment held. And for once, she didn't need to leave a light on.